Hello everyone, Jai Hind and good morning. Welcome to the platform of StudyIQ IAS in English and I welcome you all on the platform. Let's see who is live right now with us. If you're live, please type in the message and let me know that you're watching this session live. Just a second, let me see the messages here as well. Just give me a second. All right, so who is live right now with us? Ramu, good morning and good morning Kundan. Siddhana, good morning. Who else is here? Please type in the message and let me know that you're watching this session live. Along with me, my name is Bhanwar Singh Sirohi. I am ex-NDA 115th course and qualified civil services in 2012 and I'll be taking this session where we'll be discussing about the important news that are there in our today's The Hindu. We'll be taking the Delhi edition. All right, we will be going through the Delhi edition and there may be certain news that may mismatch depending upon the edition that you are seeing. All right. Ramesh, hello and good morning. Who else is here? Please type in the message and let me know that you're watching this session live along with me. Now, moving ahead, what are the important themes that are there in our today's The Hindu? Let's see. And what all themes had been covered in today's The Hindu? These are the important themes that will be moving ahead. Zenith, hello and good morning. So the first one is about the international relations. That is, the Israel and Lebanon ceasefire extension that had been done and also about the Iran's diplomatic outreach. The second one is about the polity and governance, that is the political realignment. And there had been, certain of members of Aam Aadmi Party who had been defected. So ultimately, we'll be talking about the 10th schedule as well. Anuj, good morning. All right. And then there is another news that is about the internal security. This is related to the Manipur conflict that is there about the Kuki-Naga tensions that are going on in Manipur. And then we'll be talking about Meta's automated content restriction in India and privacy in Census 2027 and also about the removal of the constitutional functionaries. All right, Ramesh, that's nice. And hello and good morning, Anu. All right, and then we'll be talking about India and US trade deal progress as well. So these are the important themes that we'll be covering in today's The Hindu analysis. All right, so let's move ahead and let's see what are the important quotes that you can relate to from today's The Hindu. All right, so these are the important quotes that you can see over here. And again, these are very important for your mains answer writing. I have already told you that good morning, Lowell. All right. And the quote, the first one is about the democracy. All right. It is that the democracy cannot be both permanent and perfect. This is by James McGregor Burns. All right. And the next quote is the bedrock of our democracy is the rule of law. And that means we have independent judiciary. This is by Caroline Kennedy. And also another important quote that we have today is that politics was never meant to be morally silent or neutral. So these are the important quotes that you can use in your mains answer writing. Now moving to the first news that we have in front of us is about the Lebanon and Israel ceasefire. This had been extended for the next 3 weeks. And this had been announced by, by Donald Trump, who is president of USA. At the same time, when it comes to the Iran Foreign Minister Araghchi, he'll be traveling to Pakistan. So there is separate news that he'll be traveling to Pakistan. And another news that concerns about the West Asian crisis is this, that the BRICS MENA envoys or the Deputy Foreign Minister and the Special Envoys of the BRICS grouping and MENA, that is Middle East and North Africa, they met on Friday and they expressed deep concern about US-Israel war that is against Iran. So both the news are very important and they pertains to a very prominent geopolitical question that we have in front of us right now. And this is about the US as well as Iran and Israel axis or the West Asian crisis that is there. Now, when it comes to Iran, so Iran Foreign Minister Araghchi, he will be traveling to Pakistan and also he'll be visiting Oman and even Russia for the ceasefire talks. The US-Iran war, it began on 28th of February and the Strait of Hormuz, it is partially closed as of now. At the same time, BRICS MENA envoys, they have expressed their deep concern over the West Asian war that is going right now. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, that controls near about 20% of the global oil, and the LPG or the PNG, that is gas, passes through it. And Hezbollah, that is based in Lebanon, they are Iran-backed Lebanese Shia militant group that is there in, or that is based in Iran right now. At the same time, BRICS is a platform, and India is the chair of the BRICS in 2026. And also over here, very important thing is to note about Jones Act. All right, so there had been a waiver that has been announced by USA, and it allows the non-US vessels to transport oil. And again, this is important for your prelims, upcoming prelims as well. Now, when it comes to the complete, different dimensions that this news is there. So when it comes to the West Asian crisis that we are seeing today, there is the hegemonic, realignment that we are seeing, and ultimately US and Iran negotiations are going on, and Trump is acting like a broker. All right, where it comes, we have seen that Mr. Donald Trump, he wants to be, he wants that he should be given a Peace Nobel Peace Prize. At the same time, he had been, since the time that he has acquired the presidentship in USA, he is the one of the main member who has been responsible for the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing in the global regime. At the same time, when it comes to the economic implications, so crude is at 45-month high. All right, crude has soared up very high, and ultimately this has an implication over the India's economic dimension as well. Rupee is right now at 94.16 per dollar, and therefore it is important that this is this will have implication on India's current account deficit as well. And there is the import bill stress as well, that right now that this all problem or the crisis that creates in front of India. Then there is the Strait of Hormuz closure as well. That is an energy shock, or it is equivalent to the disruption in the global supply chain and India's energy. We are moving towards the diversification as well. We are looking forward for the more countries through which we can import the oil, as well as we can import the natural gas as well. All right. Just a second. Then when it comes to the BRICS, so India is chairing the BRICS this year. Good morning, Krishna. And as well as when it comes to the Ministry of External Affairs, it is cautious against the West Asian crisis that we are seeing right now. And there are about, in West Asia, 8 million of the Indians that they live over here. Now, this news is important for your prelims because you could be asked about Strait of Hormuz location, Jones Act as well, UNIFIL, or even about the chairmanship of BRICS, that is in 2026. India is, chairing the BRICS as well. Now, over here, this is the important question that you can get in your prelims. The Jones Act recently seen in news is related to EU AI regulation, US maritime transport and shipping laws, WTO agriculture subsidies, and space exploration. Now, one more important thing that I want to tell you is that moving forward from the next week, we'll be starting a new series. All right, this series will be focused upon the prelims 2026. All right, in this series, I'll be discussing all the important news from the past 1 year that will be, or that may be asked in your UPSC prelims 2026. So again, this is very important that you go through the news analysis. That is very, very important for clearing your UPSC examination. Now, when it comes to Jones Act, this is the US Maritime Transport and Shipping Law. So over here, the right answer will be B. That will be the correct answer. Now, moving to the next important news that is there in the newspaper today is about the 3 of the people who had been killed as Kuki-Naga conflict rages in Manipur. So there had been ongoing conflict between Kuki and Naga communities in Manipur that have escalated on Friday, and that have left 3 of the people dead and several others who had been injured. Now, when it comes to these people, there had been 2 which were from the Kuki tribe, and there was the third that was from Tangkul Naga tribe, who were injured and killed in the recent clashes. Now, I have already taken this complete session. This is on the videos. All right, when you will move towards the video section on the channel, you will see this video. That is 58,000, more than 58,000 displays. Why is Manipur still suffering? You can watch this news. So please include facts plus questions for current affairs sessions for pre. Yes, that is what the next series will be all about, Kundan. That in that series, I'll be focusing upon all the important facts, the questions that could be asked, the important news. So everything will be covered. Do not worry. All right. So over here, this is the news, and ultimately this is the complete video that had been I have taken when it relates to the Manipur conflict that we are seeing right now in front of us. So as per the news, there had been 3 of the people who had been killed. 2 are from the Kuki tribe and 1 is from Tangkul Naga in Ukhrul district gunfight. The conflict have shifted from Miti or Mitai, I don't know how it is pronounced, although there was a student who have guided me how this is pronounced, but still I'm facing difficulty how Miti or Mitai is pronounced. All right, so there is a conflict that has shifted from Mitai dominated valley to the hill districts right now, because this conflict is about Kuki and Tangkul Naga. All right, this is not about Kuki and Mitai tribe that is there. At the same time, when it comes to the suspension of operations, there are groups and 25 of the Kuki armed groups. There is a kind of agreement that had been reached between Government of India and these Kuki militant groups so that the situation can be controlled in the region. The SOO had been signed with the Government of India in 2008, and there was a ceasefire pact that was reached between the Kuki militant groups and the Government of India as well. When it comes to the Manipur violence, so this complete region had been under conflict since 2023. And this was basically in 2023 when it started. It was the conflict between Mitai tribe as well as Kuki Zo. The Kuki are the scheduled tribes and they live in the hill region. At the same time, when it comes to Mitai, they are the valley, the tribes that lives in valley, and they had demanded the scheduled tribe status as well. This status was granted by the High Court, but at the same time, after the granting of the status of the scheduled tribe, there was the conflict that started in Manipur region. The Tangkul Naga, they are dominant tribe in the Ukhrul district, and Article 355, again, very important for your prelims, because Article 355, it lays down that it is the center's duty to protect the states from any kind of internal disturbance. All right. Now, when it comes to the implication of this new conflict that we have seen, all right, there were earlier also there were incidents in April where there were 2 of the students or 2 of the children who were killed with the bomb attack. So ultimately, when it comes to the political regime, so there had been the failure of the suspension of operations mechanism. There is also a governance vacuum that we can see, and over here we are seeing that the Chief Minister is moving ahead with the trust building efforts that we can see in the state. At the same time, when it comes to the social, there is the ethnic identity politics that is there in the Manipur region. There are multiple tribal identification in the conflict, and there had been a lots of displacement that have happened since 2023, since when the conflict started in Manipur. At the same time, Article 355 is very important. At the same time, there is AFSPA as well, that is Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And in the conflict regime, Armed Forces Special Power Act of AFSPA has been again implemented. There is special provision for the Northeast states as well that has been granted under 371C. And when it comes to the ethical perspective or the ethical question, so it is the state's duty to protect the life, and as well as there is a question that regards or debate that is about militarization as well as the civilian rights that are there. Highest number of times presidential rule imposed state is Manipur. Right. All right. So you can get a question in your prelims. This is the question. Consider following about suspension of operations or SOO agreement. It is a ceasefire pact exclusively between Government of India and the Naga insurgent groups. It was signed in year 2008. So what will be the right answer here? The right answer will be that it is not among the Naga insurgent, it is the Kuki tribe with which the government has the pact, ceasefire pact, that is SOO, or that is the suspension of operations. So the first statement is incorrect, but the second is true. So here the answer will be B, that is 2 only. Security without reconciliation only freezes conflict, it doesn't resolve it. Right, that is true. And that is what needs to be done in the region. That is reconciliation, as well as, the different tribes. There should be a third party mediator that should be there, present there, and they should calm down the complete chaos that the right now the state is witnessing. That's very true, Lord. All right. Yes, only 2 is correct. Now, moving ahead to the next of the news. Again, it is important for your prelims as well. That is 7 of the AAP Rajya Sabha member of parliament. They have quit the party and they are set to merge with BJP. And this is where we have who is Kuki tribe. Kukis are basically, when it comes to Manipur. All right, you have to understand the complete thematic of Manipur. Kuki tribe, they live in the southern part of the Manipur. All right, majorly they are there in the southern part of the Manipur, and that touches with the Myanmar border. At the same time, when it comes to Naga, they are basically in the northern hill states or northern hill territories that are there. And Mithai tribe is basically located in the Valley district, the Valley region or the Imphal Valley that is there. All right, now over here, when it comes to this news, so 7 of the AAP or Aam Aadmi Party member of parliaments in the Rajya Sabha, they have quit the Aam Aadmi Party, and this is where we have the linkage with anti-defection law in India and even the 10th schedule that is there in the constitution. Now, when it comes to this news, so when it comes, so there are total 10 of the Aam Aadmi Party member of parliament in Rajya Sabha, and 7, that is more than 2/3 of the AAP's Rajya Sabha group. And this is the constitutional threshold that is mentioned in the anti-defection law that is there. All right, Raghav Chadha, Sandeep Pathak, Harbhajan Singh and Swati Maliwal, they are among the AAP members who have resigned the AAP party. And there had been allegation of the Operation Lotus by Mr. Kejriwal. And he's saying that the BJP is using the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI pressure to, against the opposition members which are there. And that had been the allegation that had been leveled against the BJP. All right. Now, when it comes to this news, it is very important that anti-defection law, it is mentioned under the 10th schedule of the Constitution. Yes, the 10th schedule, it was brought by the 52nd Amendment Act in 1985. And over here, there is the disqualification. That is, if anybody voluntarily gives up the membership or voting against the party whip, then he or she may be disqualified under the anti-defection law that is there. But at the same time, there is exception as well. This exception is that in the case of merger, there is no anti-defection that is levied against the members of parliament. All right, when it comes to the merger is where 2/3 of the party's legislature group, it merges there. They are not disqualified under the anti-defection law, and the decision about the disqualification, it is taken by the speaker in the case of Lok Sabha and chairman in the case of the Rajya Sabha. And the decision is again subjected to the judicial review that had been laid down by Kyoto case. Again, very important case for your prelims, Kyoto case in 1992. All right, again, important for your prelims 2026. So over here, very important thing is, you need to understand that what are the basics when it comes to anti-defection law. So a person can get the membership of the house. A person can get the membership of the house. Yes, also strengthened by 91st Constitutional Amendment Act 2003. That's right. All right. Right, Ramu. So when it comes to the anti-defection, so what happens is that a person can become a member of the house by 2 ways. All right, there are 2 ways. One is by election and the another is by the nomination. So in Lok Sabha, the nomination category had been done with. All right, we have already, there were 2 of the members that were from the Anglo-Indian community. They were nominated in Lok Sabha, but now there is no nomination in Lok Sabha. But when it comes to Rajya Sabha, yes, in Rajya Sabha, we still have the nomination. that is there. So in Rajya Sabha, there could be two ways how a member can get into the Rajya Sabha, that is by election, and then we have the nomination. Now what happens is that in the case of anti-defection law, if there is a person that is elected, all right, if he is elected, he can be elected by two ways. All right, he can be elected by two ways. That is, either he has been elected on a party line, that is, he is a member of a party and he has gotten the ticket with the party. All right, like for example, a person is contesting the election with BJP. All right, so he has gotten the ticket from the party itself. Or he could be independent as well. He could be independent as well. All right, so in the case, he is elected either through the party lines or he is elected as an independent member. So he cannot change his party, or he cannot, even if he is independent, he cannot merge with a party. And if he does, if he changes party or gets membership of a party, if he is an independent member, then he could be tried under anti-defection law. But in the case of what happens is, in the case of the nominated members, there is one way, that is a person had been elected. The second way is that he is nominated. So in the case of nominated members, they get a time period of 6 months. They get a time period of 6 months. Within these 6 months, they can join any party that they want. All right, within 6 months, they can join any party that they want. But after 6 months, they cannot join any party. So that is, again, this is what anti-defection law is. And again, there is an exception of merger, that is where 2/3 of the party's legislature group, it merges with the another party, they are not disqualified. So this is under para 4 of the 10th schedule, and it requires greater than or equal to 2/3 of the original party group and merges as the new political party. They are not treated as disqualification or defection, and there is no disqualification as well. All right, at the same time, AAP had 10 of the members of parliament, 7% of them have quit. So this is equal to 70%, and that crosses the 2/3 of the threshold that is there. So the merger claim, it is valid, and the remaining 3 of the member of parliament, they could claim the original AAP Rajya Sabha group as well. So this is very important. It could be asked in your prelims. 52nd Amendment Act could be asked, para 2 versus para 4 as well, and the chairman decides whether there would be the disqualification or not. So this is upon the chairman and the speaker to decide about the anti-defection, and this is the power that has been given to the chairman or the Rajya Sabha. Normally, when it comes to disqualification of members of parliament, it is the power of the President of India. But in this case, in anti-defection, the power is given to the speaker and the chairman, and this could be subjected to judicial review. So this is again important for your prelims examination. All right, can it be a merger, sir? The original party AAP does not merge with yes, it doesn't matter. The group has merged, and the group, that is 7 of the members of parliament, that is more than 2/3 of the membership in the Rajya Sabha that they have. So again, this could be treated as a merger. All right. All right. So over here, we have a question. Consider the following statements regarding the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution. A split in the political party is no longer a valid ground for avoiding disqualification. The decision on disqualification is made by the President of India. The merger is valid only if at least 2/3 of the membership of the legislative party agree to it. So which of the above statement are correct? Yes, in Kyoto case, it was laid down, Anuj, that the decision of the speaker or the chairman about the disqualification under the anti-defection law or the 10th schedule, that could be judicially reviewed by the Supreme Court. Yes, Kundan, that's true. 331 had been effectively discontinued. Right, Shinobi. Even if they move out from the AAP, if they join with BJP, still they may face anti-defection right. No. If it had been less than 2/3 of the membership, yes, then they could have face the anti-defection, but now because it is more than 2/3 of the membership, so they will not face the defection or anti-defection. All right. So what will be the right answer? Yes, the decision on disqualification, it is not made by the president, but it is made by the speaker or the chairman of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha respectively. So second statement is incorrect, but the rest of the statements are true. So right answer will be B, that is 1 and 3 only. Now moving to the next news that is there in front of us, it is India among countries where Meta automatically blocks flagged content. Now this is about the limited countries where Facebook and Instagram, which are operated or owned by the Meta, they automatically restrict the content at the scale and based on local law requirement. The Sahyog portal is there. Again, important for your prelims, Sahyog portal. The Sahyog portal which is there, it provides a web link for the authorized police officials to send the takedown notices to the social media platform, and it operates under the section 79(3)(b) of the IT Act that we have. Alright, so this is again important news where it covers your prelims. Now over here what happens is that there is Sahyog portal where police submit the takedown notices online, and IT Ministry or Ministry of Information and Technology, it has reduced the compliance window, and it was earlier 36 hours but now it is 3 hours since February 2026. When it comes to Twitter, Twitter have challenged the Sahyog portal in Karnataka High Court as well. There is section 79 of the IT Act that is where we have the intermediaries which had been safe harbored. At the same time, we have section 79(3)(b), which is basically a safe harbor lost if the platform ignores any kind of actual knowledge notice. And that is why these companies, IT companies, they have to take down the messages or any kind of the information from the platform. Right. All right. And also there is the debate that is or that concerns this topic, and that is about the balancing of the free speech that we have, that is a fundamental right according to Article 19, and also the state sovereign power or the state power to restrict that freedom of speech in India. All right. So over here what happens is the state police or the government, it through the Sahyog portal, it gives the notice to Meta, and ultimately the content, it is auto blocked within 3 hours, and the user, they cannot appeal. That is this complete news is all about. The concern is over here that the notices, they are not orders. Notices are basically not orders, and they are being acted upon by the Meta, and that bypasses the judicial scrutiny that we have. There is also, when it comes to a platform fear, there is the platform that fears the liability, and this has a chilling effect on the speech as well, or the freedom of speech. When it comes to the asymmetry, so Meta complies. At the same time, X, that is Twitter, it is fighting against the Sahyog portal, and this is how we can see that there are the differential treatment of the platforms as well. Now, this concerns the citizens as well, because the right of freedom of speech has been in the context, as well as government as well, because government uses Sahyog portal for the security concerns, and also the platforms are involved because the platforms are liable for any of the content that is hosted on these platforms. So, if we compare, we can compare it to EU DSA that requires transparency report and even the judicial orders as well. So, you can compare this with DSA as well. But if our party chief didn't agree, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with the chief Ramu. All right. So that is what anti-defection law is all about. 69A, government can block content in public interest. Right. All right. So this is again the next news that we have for today is about the opposition that moves fresh notice seeking the removal of Chief Election Commissioner. So again, when it comes to Chief Election Commissioner, so there had been, or it had been in news as well, even before, because opposition have moved the proposal to remove Chief Election Commissioner even before. At the same time, they have moved a fresh petition in the Rajya Sabha once again for the removal of Chief Election Commissioner that are there. So there are two rules, IT Act 2000 and IT Rules 2001. See, one is Act and the another is rule. Please remember this. When it comes to right to education, all right, when it comes to, just understand this, when it comes to right to education, so Right to Education Act was there, but at the same time, rules were notified later on. So act and rules, they are different. All right. Remember. All right. Now, when it comes to the voter turnout, so we have seen yesterday that there had been a record voter turnout when it comes to the phase 1 election of the West Bengal as well as in Tamil Nadu as well. The electoral roll that had been reduced to 12% in the case of Bengal, all right, after the SIR. At the same time in Tamil Nadu as well, there had been record turnout of 85.1%, and here there had been net deletion of 68 lakh of the voters. The semi-urban areas, they saw more of the voters or highest voter additions that were there in Tamil Nadu. All right, opposition have now moved a fresh notice in Rajya Sabha seeking removal of Chief Election Commissioner Ganesh Kumar. And there had been total 73 of the members of parliament who have signed the resolution. All right. At the same time, when it comes to Supreme Court have also acknowledged that there had been record turnout, and it shows that citizens know their strength in the democracy that had been observed by the Supreme Court. Now, over here, it is very important to note that when it comes to SIR or the Special Intensive Revision, there had been the highest deletion among the urban poor, migrants as well as the Dalits. All right, the documentation had been a barrier. The proof of 2002 or 2005 residency is impossible for the migrants, and that is why they had been impacted most by the SIR. And in Patna, we have seen that there had been 16.5 lakh of the voters which had been deleted. In Ghaziabad, 36.6%, and in Lucknow, 30.88%. So again, this raises the question that when it comes to the selective filtration, so that leads to disenfranchisement of the working class. That is again very, very important to note over here. Now, when it comes to the provision, so we have Article 326 that gives us the right to vote, which is Universal Adult Franchisee. There is also Representation of People Act 1950 that provides with the electoral roll provisions. And according to this, ECI or the Election Commission of India, it can revise the electoral roll. So that power had been granted by the Representation of People Act. And T.N. Session, who had been previously, he was the Chief Election Commissioner, he have said that any place of residence or even under tree, that is an address, and that should be, that should be seen by the Election Commission as well. At the same time, we have seen that Supreme Court is already monitoring the appellate tribunals that are there for the evicted or excluded voters that are there. Again, this is very important topic when it comes to the rising concerns that we have in Indian democracy. Judicial scrutiny means, yes, the courts can interfere and investigate the matter. That's true. All right. Now, coming to the next news is the Karnataka cabinet, it has approved the sub-classification of the scheduled caste quota, and this had been historic decision that had been taken, and that has been said by Siddaramaiah. All right. Now, over here, Karnataka have approved that there would be sub-classification within the scheduled caste within the 15% of the total quota that is provided to the scheduled caste. There will be 3 categories. The category 1 will be the Madigas or the Dalit left. That will be, or they will be provided with 5.25% of the quota. Then there will be second category that will be of Holias and the Dalit right, and they will be provided with 5.25%. And the third category will be of Bhovi, Lambani and the 59 of the nomadic communities. They will be provided with 4.5% of the quota that is there for the scheduled caste. Government have dropped over here 17% scheduled caste and 7% of the scheduled tribe plan, because then it would have been more than 50% of the total quota. So we know that there is a cap of 50% in the reservation, and that is why government didn't move with the earlier plan of 17% of the scheduled caste and the 7% of the scheduled tribe quota in Karnataka. Now, there had been a very important judgment in 2024 in August. There was a constitution bench of 7 judges, and they decided in Supreme Court that there could be sub-classification within the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population, and that had been permitted. Even earlier, when it comes to the earlier stance of the Supreme Court, so in E.V. Chinaiya case in 2004, the Supreme Court have said that the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, they cannot be subclassified. So there was a reversal of its judgment. The judgment was reversed in 2024 by the Supreme Court. Also, when it comes to Indra Sohani case, so Indra Sohani case in 1992, Supreme Court have observed that there would be 50% of the cap on the reservation, and in the context of OBC classes or other backward classes, the concept of creamy layer had been used by the Supreme Court in 1992. Article 341, it provides that the president will notify the scheduled caste list as well as the states they cannot modify, and the Panchayati Raj reservation to the subgroups had been held or upheld in the earlier rulings by the Supreme Court and the High Courts as well. Now over here, the judges, they have argued while providing with the sub-quotas that there are dominant castes that are within the scheduled classes. Alright, scheduled caste. So there are dominant castes within the scheduled caste list, and they have the most of the benefits, or they get most of the benefits. So sub-classification that corrects the historical injustice within the oppressed class that we have. Alright, at the same time, when it comes to the concern, so there is a concern of the divisiveness or the division within the scheduled caste community as well. And ultimately, that may entrench the identity politics as well, and it also has a complication because in the context of increasing the reservation, that may exceed the 50% cap as well. Now, over here, you can compare this with Punjab 2004 Valmiki and Mazhabi Sikh subclassification that was held by Supreme Court, and also Telangana moved with the similar move as well. So again, this is important news when it comes to the society, when it comes to the reservation that we have in India. This is important for your prelims as well, because you could be asked about Article 341, again important, where the president, he notifies the scheduled caste. Alright, there is 7 judges benches judgment in 2004. This could be asked. You could be asked about E.V. Chinaiya case or even about the Indra Sohani case. These are important for your upcoming prelims as well. Alright. Now, moving to the next important news that is there in our today's The Hindu. This is constructive trade deal talks which had been held with US when it comes to India. So, India and US, they had held the talks, in-person talks in Washington between 20th of April to 23rd of April. Alright, over here on 7th of February 2026, India-US joint statement was there, and this is the framework for the interim agreement between the trade talks between US and India. At the same time, when it comes to the delay, so US Supreme Court had invalidated the earlier reciprocal tariffs that had been laid against India by Donald Trump. Alright, there is a bilateral trade agreement that is a longer trade or longer term goal that is between India and US, and this is again very important when it comes to the trade deal between India and US. So there had been lots of areas where the talks were held, that is the market access, along with this the NTMs as well as the custom, digital trade and investment as well. Alright, over here Ram Madhav has said that the deal is expected within a month, and Rubio will visit India, that is anticipation, as well as when it comes to the previous round that was held in October 2025, and there had been a long gap of 6 months between the talks, the trade deal talks between India and US. So this delay, it was because of the Supreme Court intervention on the tariffs which had been imposed by Trump administration. So when it comes to the total trade between India and US, it is about $190 billion in 2024-25, and US is basically India's top export partner. At the same time, when it comes to FDI, so net FDI into India that have turned positive in 2026 February at $4.6 billion, that is 45-month high as well. There had been gross FDI growth that had been of 61.6% to $9 billion, that is again 7-month high, and the top FDI or foreign direct investment sources had been from the Singapore, US, Mauritius, Japan and Netherlands. Trump has reciprocated with the tariff regime, and it has been invalidated by the US Supreme Court as well, and India had been negotiating at the time or at a time when we are now, or when we know that we are under the West Asian crisis that is there. So there is a kind of trade uncertainty that we are seeing, and thereby India is negotiating the various deals, not just with the US, but also with the other nations as well. Now, when it comes to the plurilateral deals in the WTO, so of course, when it comes to WTO favors the framework of free trade agreements, as well as when it comes to the bilateral trade talks, that is between two of the nations. So over here, India is managing between both of the different ships, or the two ships or dual ships that we have in front of us. All right, the next important news is about the firework incident that happened in Kerala. So yesterday again, I have taken a complete session on the Kerala fireworks accident, and also what could be the safer alternatives. And this again editorial piece, it deals with the fire and sound and the safe alternatives to the conventional pyrotechnics that are essential to India. Again, important news. And there is another news that concerns the same firework accident, that is the spark that turned the fatal in Mundati Code or Mundati Kode. Again, this news is important, all right. When it comes to 21st of April 2026, there were series of explosions that were there at Mundati Kode fireworks unit that is located in Thrissur, Kerala. And in Thrissur, Kerala also, we have a Puram ceremony that would be organized in the recent, coming of the days. So ultimately, there were, in this accident, there were more than 12 of the people that were dead, and more than 24 people that were injured, and 50 houses had been damaged as well. When it comes to the unit that is preparing the fireworks for the annual Thrisuram Puram festival, so this is where the accident have taken place, and the licensee, that is Satish over here, that had already been, he had the experience of more than 16 years, and he also have been succumbed to the burns as well. There are investigations that are going on about the accident that happened in Kerala, and that relates to the excess gunpowder, the banned chemicals, that is potassium chlorate, and that no safety distance had been between the sheds, and there were untrained workers as well. So now when it comes to the explosives that are there, or the firecrackers, they are basically governed by the Explosive Act of 1884 and the Explosive Rules of 2008. And according to these, the PESO, it governs the complete licensing. That is Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization, that is under DPIIT, under Ministry of Commerce. There is noise pollution rules as well that had been notified by CPCB, or Central Pollution Control Board, and it says that the fireworks had been banned between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. In 2026, in Putingal blast, there was a judicial commission, and it had the norms, they were largely ignored over here. When it comes to the safer alternative, so cold spark technology, we have spoken about it yesterday as well, that is a safer alternative to these traditional fireworks that we have seen. Now, there are vote bank politics related to this incident, because when it comes to these incident, there are festivals which entangle the politics as well, and therefore there is no enforcement about the fireworks or the fireworks factories as well. When it comes to the licensing authorities, they are under the political pressure, and when it comes to the complete working atmosphere, so there are informal workers which are unorganized, they are unskilled, and there is no safety training that had been imparted to them. Now, you can compare this incident with the similar incident. In the same week, we had an incident at Virudhunagar as well in Tamil Nadu, and that blast had killed 23 of the people. So it is very important that there should be mandatory safety audits in the firework industries, as well as drone surveillance could be utilized so that such kind of incidents, they do not occur in the near future. Now you can get the question, that is, in trade diplomacy and early harvest scheme refers to. Alright, in trade diplomacy and early harvest scheme refers to pre-Rabai subsidies, a precursor agreement to an FTA targeting select goods, WTO, perishable goods norms, or climate finance. So what will be the right answer? What is early harvest scheme in trade diplomacy? So this is related to the deal that is or the talks, agreement talks that are there between India and US. It relates to India US trade talks, and when it comes to early harvest scheme, it is basically a precursor agreement that is before the FTA or free trade agreement, and it targets the select goods. So that is the early harvest scheme. All right. Next question. The concept of the wheel of ignorance was proposed by. So who proposed the concept of wheel of ignorance? So the right answer here will be John Rawls. All right. Then these are the two questions that you can attempt for your mains as well. All right. We have GS for GS2. The Office of the Chief Election Commissioner must not only be impartial but must also be seen to be impartial. In light of the recent notice for removal, discuss the constitutional safeguards and challenges in ensuring the independence of Election Commission of India. And you could be asked in your economy as well, despite global volatility, India's FDI landscape shows resilience but faces structural shifts. Analyze the recent trends in India's FDI inflows and impact of the West Asian crisis on India's supply side indicators as well. All right, so these are the two questions for practice for your mains as well. All right, so that will be all. I'm sorry, there is no, the 50% off was only available till yesterday. All right, till 24th of April. Now you do not have the 50% off, but at the same time, you can get the maximum discount. All right, if you are trying to purchase the courses on StudyIQ platform, so you can get the maximum discount in our foundational courses, whether it is the foundational course for 2027 or for 2028. All right, so for the maximum discount, what you need to do is you can use the code that is BRS Live. And our new sessions or the new classes, they will start from 27th of April 2026. All right, so that would be all in today's session. Thank you, Ramu. Thank you, Shinobi. Who else is here? Thank you, Kundan. Yes, today's summary actually, when we summarize, so not much was there in today's newspaper, so that's why I have not included summary. All right, today's newspaper is we have only certain of the things that links to the prelims and the mains portion, but not much is there for the summarization or the linkages. All right. All right. Thank you very much, Anuj. All right, so that would be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind. I'll see you not on Monday. All right, I will see you on Tuesday because on Monday I'll be on leave. All right, I'll be taking leave. So I will see you on Tuesday. You will have 2 days of leave. I'll be preparing for the next upcoming series that will be focused completely upon Prelims 2026. So that is why I'm taking 2 days leave so that I can prepare well for your upcoming examination. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind. I'll see you on Tuesday at the same time, that is at 9:30 in the morning. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind.